Yes, 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 yes. These messages are everywhere, really. And actually, some more than just Renee and I were at the Trevor Hall concert on Thursday night, and we heard some of that. So that's a Trevor Hall song. I'm starting to remember. So, all right, so here we are. I'm here with this in the third week of this series called "The Great Work of Your Life." The great work of your life. Like, you got to believe that your life is a great work. By the way, yeah. Can you hear me? Okay. And the great work of your life is simply living your Dharma, living the thing you are created to be. That's it. Living the thing you are created to be. Not what somebody says you should be or what you think you should be, but living what you are created to be. That's what living your Dharma is, your sacred calling. The thing that you, as an essential being on this planet at this time or in this place, is here to give to the world. Because remember, it's not just about you. It's not just about living my Dharma for me or you living your Dharma for you. It's about living for the common good. It's living for the whole. And the first week, I talked about, you'll recognize this, those of you who have been here, putting your folding chair at the intersection of doubt. Remember that? We talked about living at the intersection of doubt as it regards our Dharma. That some of us are stuck here because we have this feeling about what we should do, but we're just afraid to move from here because it's kind of comfortable. But I mentioned too that these folding chairs really aren't that comfortable after all, right? And after that first week I said our job, our work to do was simply to be willing to get out of the chair. To be willing to make a move. That's it. That was our work the first week. The second week I talked about the first pillar of Dharma, which is look to your Dharma. Look to your Dharma, which basically was understanding what that is for me, discerning what that is. And that stage was simply standing up at the chair, simply after being willing to recognize and to believe that I have a sacred and holy purpose, that you have a sacred and holy purpose. You do. Not the person next to you, not me because I'm up here talking, not the person on the front page with the Emmy or the Tony or the Peace Prize, the Nobel Peace Prize, but you. To believe that you have a gift that's essential to the whole. And remember I talked about Indra, who was the goddess, great goddess in India, on the Mount Meru, and he throws out his net and casts his net in infinite directions, infinite nodes, and infinite jewels. And how each of us is one of those jewels reflecting not only our own reason and sacred calling, but reflecting every other sacred calling in that net. Right? So believing that and knowing that I have a sacred calling, as do you. So that's what happened the first 2 weeks. Now, if you weren't here, there's a lot more to talk about, but listen up. So it's standing up from the chair and remembering that we're unique. So the second pillar is this. The second pillar, after looking to your Dharma, is this. Now listen up. It's doing it full out. Doing it full out. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Once we know what it is, once we have an inkling of the direction, is to do it full out. Here's what Coke says about it. He says, your task is only to bring as much life force as you can muster to the execution of your Dharma. As much energy, as much just this that I can't even put a word to, bring that. Don't waste your time calculating your chances of success or failure. Just fix your aim and begin. That's what it's about. Doing it full out. Doing it full out. Just fix your aim and begin. And what it means is taking your thinking, your thoughts, your imagination, your action, and putting it all toward the accomplishment of your Dharma, all in the direction of your Dharma. Taking all of your life and putting that focus on it right there. That's what it's about. Doing it regardless, no matter what. Does this sound familiar? Maybe not. To do it passionately, to do it with your heart. So if week 1 was just recognizing and being willing, and week 2 was look to your Dharma, week 3, doing it full out, is this. And that, my friends, can be the most exhilarating thing you will ever do, and the most absolutely scary thing you will ever do. To remove that chair, to have nothing to catch you, to having put it aside and set it aside. So, it's exhilarating and it's scary, so let's break it down, right? Let's not leave you on edge and say, okay, go do it. Let's just go do it. Let's do that way. Let's break it down. And just like on the last pillar, there are 3 principles that Cope talks about to help us lay out a roadmap so we have something to follow. His first principle is this: do your life on purpose. Do it on purpose. In other words, set the intention, be conscious about the choices you make in life. And it doesn't mean go out there and make it happen. You know, sometimes we like to do that, especially type A personalities, like go out there and make it happen. I got to get up today and I got to make it happen. No, it's about staying aware and awake. That's what it's about. Because for a lot of us, following our Dharma and living our Dharma is about making little choices along the way that point us in the direction that we should be going. It's really, following our Dharma is really about becoming who we are here to be. It's a becoming process. It happens over time, usually. You know, I mentioned the Jane Goodall story in week 1 about how she knew when she was 4 years old, she knew where she was headed. Me, I can't even remember being 4, right? And maybe you can or can't. Maybe you've had this thing in you since you were 4 and you just haven't lived it yet. I've told you there's no small Dharma. There's only the one that's not lived, by the way. There's no small Dharma, only the one that isn't lived. So it's about becoming. It's about making those choices along the way that point toward your Dharma, that point toward your sacred calling. Now Krishna, when he's talking to Arjuna in the Bhagavad Gita, which is this based on, says, concerning one's Dharma, one should not vacillate. One should not vacillate. Listen to this. In the cultivation of Dharma, there is nothing more important than understanding what conditions are needed and relentlessly creating them. Relentlessly creating the conditions that I can live my Dharma. See, part of doing it on purpose has to do with being willing and being brave enough to create the conditions around you in which you can live your Dharma. So I want to tell you the story about Robert Frost that is in this book. Now, Robert Frost, a great American poet, he wrote his first poem at age 20 called My Butterfly. And it was published in a newspaper called The Independent, and the editor was very impressed by this poem that he wrote. So impressed that he was talking to his friend about it, who happened to be a literary advisor. And he basically hooked him up and said, hey, you know, here's this 20-year-old Robert Frost. He understands what his Dharma is. I'm going to give you this connection, right? And that's what happens in Dharma sometimes, right? You find this connection point that you didn't expect. But you know what happened was this literary advisor ended up trying to take Robert Frost down a path where he wasn't ready to go. He was writing in a certain way, and this advisor wanted to take him in a different direction. And he was like, oh, this isn't, even at 20 years old, 21 years old, he knew that that wasn't the direction he wanted to go. So what this experience clarified for him, or allowed him to clarify for himself, is the direction he did want to go. So sometimes something comes up for us, it doesn't necessarily mean what the first idea is, was now I have a literary advisor. But this literary advisor was absolutely the thing that allowed him to clarify really what he wanted to do, and really what he wanted to be as a writer. You see? Things line up sometimes in a way. Maybe that is the path, that appears to be the path, but really the path was in opposition to it at that point. Are you seeing that? The great work that is your life can only be accomplished, or is accomplished, through a series of small acts that may require big leaps. And that's the truth for Robert Frost. It's the truth for us. We simply need to act in our life on purpose. On purpose. Not willy-nilly, but on purpose. That's the first principle. The second principle is this. You've got to be completely devoted to your Dharma. You've got to be completely devoted to your Dharma. I'm talking about single-minded purpose. If we want to live it, and if we want to feel fulfilled, that's what is necessary. No matter how much focus we may bring to any task, if the task is not our real vocation, if it's not our real Dharma, we will still be haunted by the suffering of doubt and the internal agony of division. Cope says, there it is again, we cannot be anyone we want to be. Remember that quote from a few weeks ago? We can't be anyone we want to be. If we want to feel fulfilled, we can only be who we are created to be. So being single-minded has to do with knowing what our Dharma is, at least in that moment, and have a single-minded attention to it, to focus that energy. So I want to give you a story of myself back in probably 2008, let's say. I was doing a lot of pottery. I love to do some pottery. Some of you have some of my pottery. Yeah, look, a few of you. And at the same time, and I love doing pottery. I worked down at Orange Street Pottery, and I just loved it. I had my own studio at home. I used to do barrel firing in our backyard. I mean, I had it going on. And then I decided that I wanted to follow my studies to be a licensed Unity teacher. I was having this urge in me to follow more of a spiritual track with my Dharma. I didn't have that word for it, but that's what I wanted to do. And I realized that if I was going to follow that path, that I had to let something go. That I couldn't do both things at the same time. And even though I loved doing pottery, I stopped. I made a conscious decision to be single-minded and focused, to become a licensed Unity teacher, to take the courses, to fly out to Kansas City 3 times a year for weeks at a time, taking 40 hours of classes, doing some stuff online. I mean, it was going to take a lot of effort. And I knew something had to drop away. But that single-minded focus, even some years later, after I got my degree with Unity, I thought, well, I want to try pottery again. You know, I'm really it seems to be calling my name. I need to get back in there. People are asking me for coffee mugs, so maybe I need to do some more. So I went back and I signed up for some classes, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. You know why I couldn't do it? This is the way I explain it to people. There's not enough room in my mind for the spiritual work and the writing and the speaking that I want to do in pottery. Because I'll tell you, when I was doing pottery initially, everywhere I looked, I was looking at form, I was looking for color, I was looking for texture. Everywhere I went, we'd be walking down on the path at Hugh McRae Park or something, I'd say, oh, look at the bark on that tree. I would love to have that texture on a pot. It was always on my mind. Well, I couldn't do it now because everything that's on my mind now is about where's that next story that's really going to hit home? Or what do I really want to write about in my blog? Or, you know, now there's not room for both of it. And I think that's what he's talking about here, this single-minded focus. What are you here to do and be? Yes, I can be a potter, but what I'm here to do and be really has more to do with what I'm doing right now. And so I had to let something go, and that sometimes is hard for us, isn't it? But I don't wanna. I still want to do pottery. Because it's fun. Before we would talk about things we need to let go. Like when we talk about forgiveness, and like, ooh, yeah, I'm glad that's gone. This is something I really enjoy. But to have that single-minded focus, I had to let it go. And that's what this means. It means that we're willing to consciously make a decision to bit by bit let go of things that don't help us and don't point toward us living our Dharma. And here's the thing that happens with this devotion and complete devotion to Dharma. Is that when you do that, when I do that, things happen that could not have happened otherwise. Things happen and things line up for you that you're like, wow, how did that happen? How could that possibly happen? When you are that devoted to your Dharma, what I'm saying is the God of your being is what comes through. You create enough room for God, for Krishna, for Buddha, for Shiva, for Holy Spirit, whatever you want to call the name of God, you create enough room for that to come through you. So I'll continue my licensed teacher story. So after that, I decided, well, I'm going to become a unity minister. You know, that's the next logical step for me. It seemed like it was the right path decision. I came home one time to Renee after a meditation. I said, pack your bags, we're moving to Kansas City. Yeah, she wasn't too happy. That was not her response. Well, 3 months later, I happened to be working with a healer. Some of you have heard this story, Valentina. And I had gone to her about a thyroid condition that I had. But the only question that came up to me was, am I on the right path? You know, it was sticking with me. Am I on the right path? And she had never met me before. I was laying on the table. She didn't know who I was at all. And I'm laying on the table, and Valentina says to me, you don't need to go there. She said, they're just going to put you in a box. And if you go to another church, they're just going to throw you out because they're not ready to hear what you have to say. You need to be who you already are. I'm like she knew nothing about me. And I laid there for a minute and I said, oh, you're right. And then she started laughing and I started laughing and I went home and I said to Renee, we're not moving to Kansas City. And I pulled my ministerial application from Unity. And you think, well, but that was your path, Paula. But no, I believe Valentina was put in my life because that wasn't my path. Even though it seemed like the right thing, because I was open to it, I found that it was a different direction for me. It was a different direction for me. So sometimes even the thing that seems like it's on the path may not be your path. So you have to stay awake and single-minded focus and pay attention when people show up in your life and pay attention with the gut you get when people and situations and circumstances show up in your life. To stay single-minded and focused on your Dharma, what you are here to be and what you are here to do. The great comfort you should find in your Dharma has to do with God itself being right behind you. Listen to this. Complete devotion inexorably brings its own fulfillment. In other words, when a person is devoted to something with complete faith, Krishna says to Arjuna, I unify that faith in form. God itself unifies that faith in form. And when this faith is completely unified, you gain the object of your devotion, which is the reason you're here, your Dharma. In every way, Krishna says to Arjuna, the desire is fulfilled not by us in our humanness, but by God itself through us. That's amazing. So on Thursday night I mentioned we were at the Trevor Hall concert. And there was one line in his song list, in his songs that he played, that stuck with me. Even I said to Renee, remember this lyric. And it was this. It took a while for you to find me, but I was hiding in the lime tree. Above the city in the rain cloud, I poked a hole and watched it drain out. You're probably thinking, what in the world does she have to think about that? Here's what I think. What it meant to me, because I had this message in my being. I'm like, he's not talking about me hiding in a lime tree. I think he's talking about God. Here's God just waiting for me in the lime tree, and I finally realized the God of my being is right here with me. It's been the rock and the foundation of myself, but I've been ignoring it. Or he's in the rain cloud. The energy in the universe, Shiva, universal mind, love, whatever you call God, is hidden in the rain cloud. And all we have to do is recognize it for the God of our being to poke a hole and let it pour out. I was so excited about that. Maybe you're less excited about that. But what I'm saying is whatever you are looking for with single-mindedness, you will notice what it is for you. What wisdom is there for you, what message is there for you, it's there for you. With complete devotion to your Dharma, to the reason you are here. So what's the third principle? And it is this: simply to practice deliberately. It's another form of consciousness. Your gift plus effort equals mastery. In other words, fire and gasoline, boom, here I am, right? You put that desire and that understanding of what I'm here to be and do, and you put some effort behind it in deliberate practice, boom, mastery. But it does take some effort. It does take some effort. What is deliberate practice? It's this. It is not just a laborious repetition of tasks. It is a kind of sustained engagement in the work that is aimed specifically at understanding and improving the work. It's that focus that will help me be what I am here to be. Is that focus that will help you be what you are here to be. That's that deliberate practice. And it takes practice. Maybe I need a mentor. Maybe you need a mentor. Maybe you need to take a class. Maybe you need to do a meditation. Maybe you need to join a group. What is it going to take for you to master what it is? There's a story in the book of Susan B. Anthony. I never knew the story of Susan B. Anthony in the book. She was rated. I'm not going to go over it today, but one of the things she had to learn to be was a great speaker. She wanted to change the United States and in fact the world with regards to women's rights. She had to be able to speak about it. She couldn't do it. She had to master that. She knew she had to master that. What is it that I need to master in order to live my Dharma? You know, going back to my licensed UD teacher, I had to do some work. I joined the Toastmasters group and I gave my 10 speeches and I learned how to better present ideas. It's made me a tremendously better speaker than I would have been otherwise. Initially I fought it. Why do I have to go to Toastmasters? I'm already speaking. Well, I needed to. I absolutely needed to. So throwing that net out and learning something that I don't know is part of the effort required to practice deliberately to be able to deliver the Dharma that I am. So again, back to Trevor Hall on Thursday night. You know, I don't know if Trevor Hall would be considered the greatest singer alive, or whether he plays the greatest guitar, but it didn't matter. It was the quality that he brought to every single note, every single breath that came out of his mouth was just like alive. It was vibrating with aliveness. So it didn't matter that he wasn't Michael Bublé, or someone who is like a tremendous vocalist, the tenors. How many are there? The 3, the 4, the tenors. You know, men and women who have just tremendously amazing voices. But every note, I have to tell you, those of you who were there, every note, every chord, every breath was alive. That is evidence to me of deliberately practicing Dharma, deliberately practicing it. To know any part of the world deeply and intimately is to know the whole. Whatever part of the world that is for you. Each of us then must find our own particular domain, that little corner of the world in which we can drill for gold. Finally, as Krishna teaches Arjuna, when you come to know the world, you also come to love it. It's that simple. You love what you know deeply, whatever that is. So how do I spend my days? That's the name of this lesson. How do I spend my days? I would say for your Dharma to do it on purpose, with complete devotion, and practicing deliberately. Remember, there is no Dharma too small, only one that is not lived. So let's take those ideas into meditation this afternoon. Let's breathe in deeply and breathe out. And remember the essential life that you are. Part of that net with the glowing jewels at every node. Remember to look for your Dharma, to lean toward that which makes your eyes sparkle, which puts that spring in your step. Remember last week I talked about our trash man? Oh man, that guy just walks with a stride that tells me that he knows he's contributing. He's digging for gold in his part of the world. And once I've found that what that is, once I get an inkling of the direction I should be going, to do it full out, to let no stone unturned, to put it all on the table, to live it fully and completely. So in this moment and in this meditation, let's simply be open to it all. And maybe our prayer right here, right now, is simply this: show me. Show me.
Shivaya. Om Namah 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 Shivaya.
Realizing when there is nothing lacking, the whole world belongs